Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone. This deep dive is presented by Bluewater Auto Restoration. It's week 50 of 2025 already. Great to have you spending your Saturday morning with us again. We really appreciate you tuning in. So today's mission, it's a big one. We're tackling something lots of enthusiasts dream about, but maybe underestimate. Using a classic car, anything from 20 to 50 years old, maybe even older as your actual daily driver. We want to get past just the cool factor, the romance of it, and really dive deep into the practicality, the costs, and, well, the emotional roller coaster it can be.
Yeah, it really comes down to this core conflict, doesn't it? It's the heart of the whole thing.
Yeah.
How do you keep that amazing, historic soul of the car, the analog feel, the look, while also making it, actually work reliably and safely in today's world?
Rush hour traffic wasn't exactly in the design brief for a 65 Mustang, was it?
Not at all.
Yep.
So it's this constant tension. Do you live with that fear of it overheating on the freeway? Or do you say, put in a modern engine swap? Where do you draw the line?
Exactly. That constant worry, that fear of breaking down, it can really suck the joy out of it fast. So our goal today is to help you figure that out, to see how far you personally can go modifying your classic before it, stops feeling like the car you fell in love with. It's all about finding your sweet spot, right?
Yeah.
That balance between enjoying it every day and actually being able to rely on it. It's complex for sure.
It really is. And we're going to try and unpack all those layers. And just a reminder, if you're thinking about any of this stuff, a full rest-a-mod, or maybe just some smart upgrades, check out BlueWaterAutoRestoration.com. They got tons of insights. Okay, so before we get our hands dirty, maybe we should define what we even mean by daily driver in this context.
Good idea. It can mean different things to different people.
For this deep dive, let's say a classic daily driver is a car you're using regularly, like 3 to 7 days a week. It's your main transport for commuting or running errands, maybe consistent seasonal use if you live somewhere snowy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just polished for Sunday shows.
Right. It's actually doing the job of a car. And, how much headache or joy you get out of it really seems to depend on how the car is set up. You've broken this down into 4 kinds of approaches, right? A spectrum, basically.
Yeah, 4 main categories that sort of show the range of commitment involved. Let's start with the purists, the preserved originals.
The brave ones.
Yeah, maybe. These are the cars kept pretty much stock. They've likely had restoration work, sure, but the core mechanicals, the original type of engine, the ignition, carburetors, maybe even drum brakes. It's all factory correct or period correct parts.
So like that 65 Mustang we mentioned, or a classic VW Beetle and MGB.
Exactly those kinds. Now, can you use them daily? Well, moderately. It takes huge discipline. You're basically signing up for a very close relationship with your toolbox.
Yeah.
Checking timing, points, fluids, belts, maybe every week.
Wow.
Because those systems, they just weren't designed for constant stop-and-go hour-long commutes in modern heat.
Okay, that sounds like a lot of work. A labor of love that could get old fast.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the next type, the sympathetic rest-a-mods. These seem like the sweet spot for a lot of people.
I think they often are, yeah. Sympathetic rest-a-mods are classics where the upgrades are really focused just on making them reliable and usable day to day. And often, these upgrades are done pretty discreetly, so the car still looks vintage. The soul's there, but the bits most likely to strand you are modernized.
So better engine management, better brakes.
Exactly. Updated drivetrains, maybe modern disc brakes, electronic ignition, that sort of thing. Think of a 1970 Chevelle. Looks stock outside, but under the hood, maybe a modern LS engine.
The LS swap, the answer to everything.
Well, it gives you modern power, way better reliability, and even decent fuel economy, relatively speaking. Or like Datsun 240Z, where they've swapped the tricky old carbs for a modern fuel injection setup.
Right.
These are highly suitable for daily driving because you basically eliminate the biggest failure points, starting, stopping, overheating, but you still get that raw, connected, classic driving feel.
That does sound like a great balance, assuming you're okay with the work involved in, say, an engine swap. But if money's no object...
Well, then you enter the realm of the modernized classics.
Mm-hmm.
These aren't just upgrades. They're often complete re-engineering projects.
Okay, so way beyond just an engine swap.
Oh, yeah. We're talking custom chassis sometimes, modern suspension geometry, really high-end climate control, maybe even some safety tech integrated, all wrapped in that perfect classic body. Think of the big names, like Icon 4x4 with their Broncos, Singer vehicle design and their reimagined 911s, or Velocity restorations with their F100s.
These are beautiful machines and eye-wateringly expensive.
Exactly. Suitability is excellent. They fix all the problems. Reliable, comfortable, safe. But the cost? Yeah, hundreds of thousands, easily. Puts them out of reach for most people doing their own work.
Okay, so we've got the purists, the balanced folks, the sky's the limit builds. What about someone who just wants, a cool old car to drive to work that doesn't require a second mortgage or constant tinkering?
That's where the retro commuters come in. This is a great entry point, actually.
Okay.
These are usually more affordable cars, typically from the 80s or maybe early 90s. They have that vintage vibe, but they already benefited from some later tech.
So what kind of cars are we talking about?
Like older pickups, Japanese or American, or those famously durable Volvos like the 240 or 740 wagons. The BMW E30 is another classic example.
Ah, the E30. Yeah.
These cars often came with fuel injection from the factory, maybe slightly better rust protection, and crucially, parts are usually way easier to find and more affordable than for older classics.
So less need for major surgery just to make them reliable.
Exactly. You can focus more on standard maintenance. They're practical, they've got character, and they bridge that gap quite nicely for daily use.
Okay, that spectrum makes a lot of sense. But before we even think about upgrades, we really need to hammer home just how tough the modern world is on an old car. It's not just driving, it's survival sometimes.
That's a good way to put it. Modern driving conditions, the speed, the sudden stops, the sheer amount of time spent idling in traffic, the heat, it's just fundamentally different from what these cars are designed for.
Right. Let's start with the absolute basics, just keeping the thing running reliably. What are the specific parts that just, give up the ghost when you force a stock classic into a daily commute?
The usual suspects are almost always ignition and fuel delivery, especially on pre-electronic ignition cars.
The points and condenser systems.
Yeah. Those are incredibly sensitive to engine heat. When you're stuck in traffic, the underhood temperatures soar that heat soak we talk about. You can cause the point settings to drift or just degrade them quickly, so you get hard starting when the engine's hot or it starts sputtering or just dies.
Been there, not fun.
Nope. And carburetors have their own issues. They hate varying temperatures and altitudes. They can boil the fuel in the lines in high heat. That's vapor lock.
Ah, vapor lock, the summer killer.
Instantly sidelines you. And the maintenance needed just to keep these systems happy. It's intense for a daily driver. You're realistically looking at tune-ups, plugs, points, condenser, cap, rotor, oil, filter every 5,000 miles, maybe even less.
Compared to a modern car where you might go 10, 15,000 miles between oil changes.
Exactly. It's a totally different mindset. You have to be prepared to be constantly checking and adjusting things.
Okay, so the mechanical stress is bad enough, but then the environment itself is basically attacking the car too, right? Weather, sun.
Oh, absolutely critical, especially if you're driving it year-round in a place with actual seasons. Modern road salt is vicious.
Yeah.
Way more corrosive than the stuff they used decades ago.
And old cars just weren't built with that in mind.
Not at all. They lack the sophisticated galvanizing, the E-coatings, the complex drain channels modern cars have. Water and salt get into seams and crevices and just sit there. Rust accelerates incredibly fast.
Winter driving is a major risk for the car's body.
Huge risk. But even summer isn't totally safe. Simple sun exposure, UV damage is relentless on older materials. Those single-stage paints, the vinyl dashboards and seats, they didn't have the UV inhibitors and clear coats we have now. Park it outside your office all day, every day. The dash will crack, seats split, paint fades much faster.
Okay, let's talk money. The elephant in the room. Fuel efficiency, or lack thereof. When you see figures like 10, maybe 15 miles per gallon for a classic V8, ouch.
Yeah, the wallet feels that one. You have to factor that in right from the start. If you've got a decent commute, say 40 miles round trip, that 10 mpg versus maybe 30 mpg in a modern car, it adds up fast.
And it's even worse on the highway sometimes.
Often, yeah. Because most classics, especially pre-1980s, don't have overdrive gears.
Right, so the engine's spinning really fast at highway speeds.
Exactly. You could be doing 70 mile and the engine's humming along at 3,500, maybe 4,000 RPM continuously. That just drinks fuel, obviously. But it also increases engine wear significantly and creates a ton of noise in the cabin, which leads to driver fatigue.
Ah, yeah, the comfort factor. Or maybe the discomfort factor. And safety. That's a huge one.
The safety gap is probably the biggest mental hurdle for most people. Let's be blunt. In a stock classic, you are basically unprotected by modern standards.
No airbags, no ABS, no stability control.
Zero. None of it. You're in a situation with high speeds, short reaction times, and you're relying entirely on, 50-year-old brake technology and your own driving skill. That's a serious consideration.
And just the effort involved.
It's physically taxing. Manual steering, especially parking, it's heavy work. Manual drum brakes need a lot more leg pressure and just don't stop us short. Add in poor insulation, so it's noisy. Maybe mediocre heating or AC. It all adds up. On a daily commute, that stress and fatigue can become a real safety issue itself.
Okay, so if it does break down, despite your best efforts, then what? Parts. That can be another nightmare, right?
It really depends on the car. It's definitely a spectrum.
Yeah.
If you're driving something super common, like a first-gen Mustang or Camaro or an old Ford truck, the aftermarket support is incredible. You can get almost anything, usually pretty quickly.
But if you chose something a bit more obscure.
Yeah, if it's a less common import, maybe a specific European model or something with unique trim or mechanical parts, a relatively minor failure can turn into a massive headache. We've genuinely seen cars parked for months just waiting for one specific little part to be sourced from overseas or fabricated. That risk of having your daily driver suddenly become an expensive garage ornament for half a year, it's real.
Yeah.
All right, so we've laid out the problems. Relying purely on, say, 1960s tech in 2025 traffic is, well, it's asking for trouble.
Definitely sounds like it. So the whole point of doing these sympathetic upgrades is to tackle those weak spots, right? To make it less stressful.
Exactly. It's about mitigating those risks, building a bridge between that cool analog driving experience you love and the actual demands of modern roads, turning anxiety into enjoyment.
Okay, so let's talk specifics. What are the absolute must-do upgrades if you're serious about daily driving a classic? Starting with the engine, keeping it running reliably. Ignition and fuel seem like job one.
They really are. You have to address those heat-related failures we talked about. The easiest win is electronic ignition. Converting from points to a reliable electronic system, something like a Pertronics unit that hides inside the original distributor cap, or maybe a more visible MSD setup, is fundamental.
And that gets rid of the points drifting and needing constant adjustment.
Completely. It uses solid-state electronics, gives you a much hotter, more consistent spark, makes starting way easier, especially when hot, and basically eliminates ignition maintenance.